Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 23 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we're going to build the setup that's going to grow us all these trees. Enjoy. Now the question is, how much of this do we actually want? Right now we're calculating 10 trees a second, which is actually kind of a lot. Well, we're limited by the number of these seed generators we can build, and funnily enough, since we have 9 total trees, we can actually do this recipe, because it only requires 6 seed generators. However, that feels like an awful lot of wood. Although, there are other things we could use this wood for. It may seem like a lot, but if we're turning it into fuel, we're going to need a lot. But also, another use of wood is making paper, which is a more efficient way of making insulating boards, which will require some amount of wood. So it might seem like a lot, but I don't know, we've got the number of necessary trees for it, so perhaps we should just max it out and say we want 15 trees per second. So we're growing 15 trees, which is a limit of our belts, and our output is going to be 14.8. So are there any huge numbers here? Well, 33 arboretums. And 9 generators, 9 seeds, which I believe is what we have. That is convenient. Not an obscene amount of assemblers. Just the 1 seed extractor. We don't need it for much. As far as soil, 3 composters, and 4 of these. We're definitely going to be making a huge amount of saline water, and all that's going to get thrown away. And still the 1 assembling machine. So it doesn't seem like it's that crazy of a build here. First things first, let's build the actual part that grows the trees. And I say it's a temperate seed generator, but I don't think it really matters which one it is. So you can just say temperate and then just use whatever trees you have available. 33 arboretums. Man, this is going to consume. It's interesting when you look at that's how much pollution it uses, so it's going to be consuming a ton of pollution. In that sense, considering the amount of pollution it's going to consume, you want to try to position it in a place where it would actually consume a reasonable or a meaningful amount of pollution, if possible. Because if you put it somewhere where there's no pollution, it will have no pollution to consume, and you won't get that benefit. So that's something to keep in mind. But we need 33 arboretums. And look at that. Stone, steel, and all those other things. Where to place all these things? But we kind of just need an open area to start building it. Looks like it won't be too huge. These buildings aren't enormous. So let's try it over here. So first we need our 33 arboretums. Looks like throughput is not going to be a problem for any of them. So we can build them in whatever orientation works best. Let's see, I don't think we can put them like this, because it has to be an input, so they would have to be spaced like that, which would make them kind of large. So instead we should probably space them like that, and have the pipes going on one side or the other. It's going to have these 2 things coming in, and then trees coming out. So we could just use 2 belts for that. 1 belt for the trees, and 1 belt for the soil and tree seeds. What I've been kind of doing here is just hooking up various resources when we run out of them, basically. Because we still need to really build the bus in its entirety. But for now, just find some simple ways to hook this stuff up just to keep the resources flowing until everything is in its final position. Okay. That's a little dense. Looks like it works. Need some lights in here as well. Okay, that much is done. That's the big part. Then it's just things like seed generators and whatnot. So we need to have these generators here making seeds. And the water. We'll again hook up the water at some other point. Then on the other side of this, we need to chop up the trees into wood. Something like that. So it'll have priority where the saw blades will always be dumped on the belt here. However, it'll only ever make new saw blades if it has space to do so because they didn't make it to this point. Now we need to cycle back. Bring the trees in here. Okay, let's give output priority to the belt that takes wood back to be turned into seeds. Okay, that should be that whole process. Now we need to make soil. The soil making probably doesn't have to happen in super close proximity to this, because it'll require compost, which will be grown using other resources. So now we got to figure out where do we want to make that soil. Actually, I'm fine with doing it like down here. Just next door. But unfortunately, I think that means we need to get rid of some trees here, make more space. So to make all this mud, we're going to need 1 C4 plump and 20 washing plants. Okay, let's see if a grid like this would work. So the first thing is heavy mud water. Then it turns into concentrated mud water, light mud water, thin mud water, and into saline water. So they all connect to each other linearly like this. And I've spaced them because you have to pipe in water through the side. And then also the belts for the mud will all come through the sides like this. I'm actually wondering if we should make this design a little bigger so it uses an entire seafloor pump. Actually, it looks like it already will because the washing plants aren't being used to their full capacity. So this will produce some extra mud. But we might have to build a second one of these if it's not enough. We could probably squish this design and make it even smaller by getting rid of these intermediate pipes here, but yeah, let's do that. So we need that seafloor pump. And then some water. Okay. Water is being supplied, mud is being made. At least until it gets to the saline water and then it clogs up. Can we make clarifiers yet? Yes, excellent. Okay. Let's put this here. That'll be our saline water tank. You can see it's going to fill up very quickly. And then let's make a clarifier to get rid of any extra saline water, and we will try to use that saline water for other processes. But ultimately, saline water is a really low value byproduct, so if we can't find a use for it, there's nothing wrong with just dumping it. It's easy enough to create. In fact, later on in the game, you can make, so one source of saline water is mud. But a different resource, or a different way to do it later on, is you could just make saline water from water. So you basically just grind it out from nothing. So it's a really easy thing to create when you actually need it, and you could do it just about anywhere. So don't feel too bad about dumping saline water. It's not very valuable. Oh yeah, and I believe these hold a full stack of mud, so these will run for a very long time. Figure out how to do it. You can space it here, and have that pipe there, and then overflow valve. And there we go. Now we're dumping what the extra is, but how quickly does it work? That's a good question. Do we need more than one? We do. We need two of them. Okay. There we go. Now it should catch up. For now, I'll make the compost just with wood because it's easy and we can do that. And because we can't grow stuff yet until we do some additional research. So I'd like to get this set up and just have it working before we, worry about more complicated stuff that we can't even research yet. To make soil, we're going to need to compost wood. And we need 33 assembly machines. And then 3 composters. Now we need to make the compost. Let's do it the easy way, just use the wood that will be coming by up here. Okay, that's hooked up. Might as well send the mud through. Kind of want to disconnect everything now, so we can performance test it one step at a time. Okay, we need to seed this whole thing with wood. So let's use a loader. Then we'll move or disable this or use circuit network when we have a more efficient way of producing compost. That is a lot of soil. Let's hook up the wood and let's see the seedlings be created. Let's see, that thing seems a little inserter limited, but it kind of isn't. It just doesn't need to run that fast. And the seedlings should be stopped and they won't make it past this point. Correct. Okay, let's hook up the soil. We should get a tree seed, very similar to seedling. go on to the main event, making trees. Well, pollution here is 0. It's a big old square, empty square. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Time to hook up the last step here. See, make sure the saw blade logic works correctly and it doesn't get stuck on saw blades. Ideally, the saw blades will always stop here and they won't back up any. Explosion of wood. Okay, so it will back up a little bit because of just buffer. Although we could potentially get rid of that problem by having a buffer chest here. All looking good. It's all running quite efficiently. Next we need to have, let's see, where is it? Our wood silo. We need to put that over here and then have a priority splitter to use it up before we produce more wood. There we go, something like that. And now we have our unlimited wood. That's it for this episode. In the next one, we're going to make some wood pellets for fuel and start planning fertilizer. I'll see you later.